Welcome to the second part of the Keane EP. In terms of the songs and the demos that are on this EP, I'd like to take you back to northern France in 2001. It seems like you had a lot of inspiration just before and during that time. Can you give any indication as to why?
We've been in London for quite a long time then, haven't we? Playing our gigs and rehearsing and generally not making much of an impact. I think that probably eventually manifested itself in some good songs, such as This Is the Last Time in Bed Shake. But then when we went to France, it was nice and summery, wasn't it? And
Sunshine came around during that time.
Sunshine, we wrote in France. It's very dreamy, isn't it? And slightly, it's definitely got a kind of childlike quality. I remember thinking the song was a sort of a love song, really, and quite an innocent love song, which is quite unusual for us. It was probably the first song I wrote on the guitar, actually. And that was, sitting out in the vegetable patch at James Sanger's, whatever you call it, farmhouse.
Shack. Sprawling shack.
Sprawling shack. Very nice one.
Moving on to This Is the Last Time. So we've got two versions of it, and the first one is a kind of very electronic one. It sounds great, I think, having listened back. It sounds a bit like we could have ended up being a sort of dreamier version of Hot Chip or something.
Do you remember we were all trying to get something that sounded like that track by Olive?
Oh, right.
I remember playing with lots of that sort of kind of gated pad sound, kind of 90s electro pop vibe. But I think probably what makes that track so interesting is that it's been through so many incarnations. It has lots of little relics of sort of little cool bits of synth and reverse bass and funny little sounds that we came up with over the it must have been working on it for a couple of years, I think.
And now moving on to Maps.
That was quite an old song as well. Yeah. I think it ended up being really nice. I remember that was when we changed quite a lot when we all set up in the courtyard at James's house in the sort of boiling sunshine, and we had all these analogue synths that were all going out of tune and just playing that song round and round and changing the structure a little bit. That was a song that I think really benefited from being in France.
On to Under the Walnut Tree. I'm listening to it closely, and I was pretty sure I could hear actual birds twittering in the background. I know that's a sound effect, whether we actually recorded vocals for it in the garden or at James's, stuck the microphone outdoors or something.
We used to record with the door open a lot, didn't we? Because it was in this big barn. It used to get quite hot in the summer. And I remember leaving the door open, and there'd be tractors going by and birds singing outside. And I guess we just wanted to soak up a bit of that vibe. I think you can tell that we're just excited about the idea of just being able to take a drum loop, put it in Logic, and repeat it for 180 bars and just play over the top of it.
And lastly, The Happy Soldier appears on this EP, and that is probably the oldest Keane song that's ever made it into the big wide world. My
recollection is that I was working on that whilst I was working at a nursing home in Battle. I would have been about 18, and I remember walking back to Richard's house, because Richard lived very nearby, like literally 100 yards down the road from where I worked. So I remember walking there and saying, I've got this idea for a song. We all sort of had a bit of a soft spot for that song ever since. It's quite an innocent kind of protest song, I suppose. It developed into something quite kind of bombastic, didn't it, when we were in France? Got all those kind of explosions and weird things on it.
It got out there as a B-side, did it? Or, I just can't remember.
No, I don't think we've ever released it.
Has it never been released?
First time release.